Hi, I'm Brandy. This is Hound Dog Hollow, and today I'm going to be reviewing Magickal Astrology, Use the Power of the Planets to Create an Enchanted Life by Sky Alexander. This is, it's a lot, obviously it's an astrology book, which is the series that we're covering right now. But what I would say is it's also kind of a really good just witchy 101, and I'll show you what I mean. So I like her writing style. It's usually very direct, very clear, and that's really helpful to make the information accessible to a broad audience in terms of literary acumen, right? So basically, they're just talking about astrology in all sorts of different contexts and how it can relate to the body, chakras, musical notes, so on and so forth, which they don't dive into. They just kind of give you the correspondences very, very lightly. That's one of the, I would think that this is a 101 or a primer, just an intro level book that has a lot of little bits of information about different topics. And so it's not quite, it won't really get you to that intermediate level like some of the other books I reviewed. But if you're just like, oh, I want to learn about astrology, or I'm new to the craft, and I think that I'm interested in functioning magically in this way, which a lot of that deeply resonates with me because that's how I function and that's how I came to it. And I think that getting this book at 18 would have been really, really like ideal for me in my phase of my development. Which is not to say that fundamental books can't give you lots of new information. I have tons of notes that I got from this book. It's just, I would say that this is more of an intro 101 book, and that it's not exactly just astrology, but the application of astrology in your magical workings, which I like that topic very much. So it goes into your birth chart very briefly, talks about what each of the different planets means very briefly, each of the houses very briefly, the angles, the signs, the aspects, all of that very briefly. Then it goes and it dives into different topics that are both astrological and as they pertain to magical workings. So fire is one of the elements. It goes through all the elements, correspondences for the elements, spell work you might do with the elements, so on and so forth. It covers each of the elements in this way. And it talks about elementals of the elements, and then it goes on to the next thing. Nothing very deeply, though, if you notice as I'm flipping through. It gives you a nice overview where you could certainly get started and say, oh, I'm really interested in that. I'm going to do a deeper dive. And you would need another book to do a deeper dive into that topic. So if you discovered from this book that you really like elemental magic, you might get, there's a ton of elemental magic books out there. I have at least 3, but you get my meaning. So working the elements into rituals, and then it's just like, this is basically casting a circle. This is a whole chapter basically on casting the circle and calling the quarters and different altars, different everyday rituals that you can do. Magickal Toolbox just goes over each of the tools that you might consider, like wand, athame, pentagram, and the chalice, and tons of other ones, different tools you might use, what their correspondences might be, and how you can engage them in your practice. This is how you would engage the sun in your practice, which basically talks about, you know, when the planets are in each, when the sun is in each zodiac sign and what kind of energy that is, when the moon is in each phase and what kind of energy that is. Then it goes into a whole chapter briefly about each planet, from Mercury to Pluto, and how you might work with them. So the planet information, how you might work with them. Just super brief, but good information nonetheless. Just gives you an idea, jumping off point, I think. The astrological year is going through the zodiac, and it tells you basically this is the zodiac sign, this is the energy that you can use. And that's also pretty helpful. the wheel of the year. It goes through each of the Sabbats and the energy associated with them, and how to celebrate it. Again, very briefly. So then it has a chapter on magical symbols, starting with briefly touching numerology, and then symbols like elements, planets, color symbolism, magic squares, and then it covers plants. So this, if you can see what I'm talking about when I say it's kind of a witchy 101. So it talks about the plants, each of them has a correspondence, and then, so flowers in the zodiac, herbs in the zodiac, trees in the zodiac, scents in the zodiac, cooking foods, how to use botanicals and spellcraft. And that's the same context that goes in the next chapter, which is gemstones, which gemstones corresponds with each planet and zodiac signs, and how you might use them in magic and your workings. Just very briefly covering, you know, a nice skim over a large, broad topic. So timing your magical work, it talks about the days of the week and how they pertain to astrology. The horary astrology. And that's it. Conclusion. And so as far as if you are interested in astrology and or witchcraft, magic, and you just want something like that's going to give you like, this is all of the things under this umbrella, and not even all, because there's a ton more. It doesn't talk about relational astrology or how you can apply astrology in your body. But it's really nice for an intro. I think if my witchy friend says, oh, I'm interested in, you know, astrology and this, and I kind of want to take a deeper dive, but I'm not sure, this would be a book that I would recommend for that. And then at that point, if they're like, I really like astrology, but this wasn't enough, then I would go into Astrology for Yourself, The Stars Within You, the only astrology book you ever need at that point, because then they could build from there, from beginner to advanced beginner and intermediate pretty easily with those books. So as always, please like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this information, and I love you guys so much. Have a good day.